Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honour to be asked to say a few opening words to the renowned Gulf Research Meeting. I would like to welcome you in the name of the University. In particular, I would like to welcome back Dr. Abdulaziz Sagar, the distinguished founder and chairman of the Gulf Research Centre. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Stephen Toop, sends his warmest wishes and expresses a strong hope that you would be able to meet again in person in Cambridge next year. As you all know, this annual event is an important fixture in the calendar of the Gulf region and of course of this university. The output of the Gulf Research Meeting has been prodigious, with more than 45 edited books and no fewer than 300 published academic papers. Your work chimes with that of my own, much more modest organisation, which is the Centre for Geopolitics here at Cambridge. We are linked through your trustees, Stuart Lang and Geoffrey Edwards, and of course through John Svakianakis, who gave an excellent lecture to the Centre just before the pandemic broke. I was very kindly asked to share our vision for the region. This is expressed through our research and engagement project, Westphalia for the Middle East. Now, as a non-specialist, I would not dream of lecturing you on your region. So rather than speaking of a vision, let me share very briefly an inspiration and express a hope. Our inspiration is the Treaty of Westphalia, which brought the infamous 30 Years' War to an end. This was a conflict which had pitted Germans against each other, principally over politics, constitution, and religion, and sucked in outside powers. It was uniquely destructive. The Treaty of Westphalia in 1648 did not end these conflicts, but substantially detoxified the region by channeling tensions into a legal space. Germany as a whole, and individual territories, towns, and even places of worship within Germany became what we call shared spaces, in which minority, religions, princes, corporate bodies, and ordinary inhabitants had their rights enshrined and safeguarded. All this was placed under international guarantee and was mutually and reciprocally guaranteed by the contracting parties themselves. To this extent, the widespread view that Westphalia marked the emergence of the modern sovereign state, exempt from outside interference, could not be further from the truth. The key to peace, in fact, was shared and therefore limited sovereignty. Like Germany in the first half of the 17th century, the present-day Middle East has long been racked by a series of interlocking domestic and international conflicts. In many states across the region, Sunni and Shia face off against each other, conflicts which are overlain and exacerbated by the rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran and those between outside powers. Our hope is that the Middle East can be similarly reconceived as a shared space, politically, religiously, and in other ways. Peace in the Middle East cannot be imposed by external powers. It must come from the region itself. That peacemaking mechanisms and diplomatic techniques that proved effective in Westphalia can provide inspiration for how this might be done in practice. Peace will likely require a comprehensive settlement, embracing, like Westphalia, all of the major parties, inside and outside the region, into a multilateral Congress. Piecemeal solutions have not worked. As was the case in Germany in the 1640s, the array of conflicts and grievances in the Middle East now is more complex and interwoven than can be successfully addressed with completely disconnected sets of negotiations aimed at solving one or other territorial part of the regional problem. Negotiations should focus on harmonizing interests and on achieving crisis diffusion, rather than matters of principle. Patience, of course, is key, It is often the experience of the peace process that can achieve the necessary shifts in mindsets and a minimum level of trust. The willingness of the bigger players to guarantee every aspect of the settlement, even those that do not affect them individually, ought to be signalled at an early stage in order to instill confidence in the viability of the negotiations. The late Michael Axworthy, the renowned Iran expert, Patrick Milton, the Westphalia Fellow, and I set out this approach in our book Towards a Westphalia for the Middle East, and its themes were much discussed in Foreign Affairs, Foreign Policy, The New Statesman, and other fora. If a solution is not found soon, we fear that the 30 years war in the Middle East will not be the decades of strife which lie behind us, but an awful future which stretches ahead. Of course, many of these subjects have been addressed by the GRM at previous meetings, and no doubt will be much discussed over the next couple of days. The pandemic has destroyed so much, but I am glad to see that it has not quenched your thirst for knowledge and informed debate. Your Excellencies, Dr. Sager, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all a productive conference.